August 1997. A letter arrived at a federal prison in Pennsylvania. The message was invisible. When heated over a match, the hidden writing appeared. Court records show it contained 3 words that would trigger 2 murders within hours. You're about to see how America's deadliest prison gang runs a criminal empire from inside the most isolated cells in California. According to the FBI, the Aryan Brotherhood makes up less than 1% of the prison population, but they're responsible for 18% of all prison murders. This is the story of how concrete walls, total isolation, and 23-hour lockdown couldn't stop them. For decades, prison officials believed they had the answer. Lock the most dangerous men in America in windowless cells. Cut off all contact. Monitor every move. They were wrong. By the end of this investigation, you'll understand why even in total isolation, gang leaders could order murders 1,700 miles away. And you'll see the one thing that finally changed after a 60-day hunger strike that nearly killed them. But first, you need to see what happens when you're sent to the SHU. Pelican Bay State Prison opened in 1989 on California's remote northern coast. Miles from civilization. Surrounded by redwood forests. Designed for one purpose. According to state corrections officials, this was built to house the worst of the worst. Prisoners too violent, too unpredictable for regular maximum security. The facility covers 275 acres. But half of it is the security housing unit. The SHU. 1,056 solitary confinement cells. Each one is 8 feet by 10 feet. Concrete ledge for a bed. Steel toilet. No windows. No direct sunlight. Former inmates describe the sound. The endless echo of steel doors. The fluorescent lights that never turn off. The silence broken only by screaming. Court documents from the 2012 lawsuit Ashker versus Governor of California reveal the conditions. Prisoners in the SHU were isolated 23 to 24 hours per day. Denied telephone calls. No contact visits. No educational programs. No normal social interaction. As of 2011, more than 500 men had been in the SHU for over a decade. 78 had been there for more than 20 years. According to international human rights experts, solitary confinement for as little as 15 days is recognized as torture. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture stated that 15 days in solitary can cause irreversible psychological harm. Most people were sent to the SHU for one reason: gang validation. Prison officials could label you a gang member based on circumstantial evidence. Reading materials about Black history. Possessing cultural artwork. Writing in Swahili. Even appearing on a list found in another prisoner's cell. According to the Center for Constitutional Rights, once validated, prisoners faced indefinite isolation. The only ways out, as inmates repeatedly stated, were to parole, debrief, or die. Debriefing meant informing on others, which meant condemning someone else to the same torture, and risking retaliation. But what most people don't know is what guards did in the early years when no one was watching. After Pelican Bay opened in 1989, a federal lawsuit revealed a culture of brutality. According to court testimony, guards subjected inmates to staged gladiator fights. They would intentionally release 2 prisoners from enemy gangs, then shoot at them when they started fighting. In April 1992, prison records show guards took an inmate named Von Dorch to be bathed after he smeared himself with feces. His mental illness had worsened in the SHU. 5 or 6 guards held him in scalding water while handcuffed. He suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns. The 1991 federal lawsuit Madrid versus Gomez found deficiencies in 3 areas: use of force, mental health care, and physical health care. A court monitor was appointed. The most brutal abuses stopped. But the isolation continued. And the gangs adapted. Total isolation. Indefinite sentences in windowless cells. Brutal guards. And yet, gang violence didn't stop. It got worse. 3 rules controlled life and death inside Pelican Bay's SHU. Rules that determined who lived, who died, and who gave the orders. According to federal prosecutors and multiple court cases, to join the Aryan Brotherhood, You had to commit murder. Not just any murder. A kill ordered by the gang. On their terms. When they said, the 2006 federal RICO indictment detailed the process. Prospective members, called prospects, spent years proving themselves. Reading gang literature. Following orders. Waiting for their chance. Court testimony revealed the final test. According to witnesses, prospects had to make their bones by killing a target selected by the gang's three-man commission. Only then could they earn the shamrock tattoo that marked them as full members. Former members testified that membership was for life. There was no resigning, no retirement. The motto, blood in, blood out. The only way to leave was death. But here's what makes it deadlier. According to law enforcement, many prospects were willing to kill just for the chance to join. To prove their worth. In 2015, court records show that associates hoping to join the AB murdered a 71-year-old man named Hugo Yogi Pinnell at Folsom State Prison. During wiretapped phone conversations, prosecutors alleged that AB leader Ronald Yandell told another member that the killer earned his rock by committing the murder. One shamrock. One life. The Aryan Brotherhood is in chaos. According to federal indictments, it's a highly organized criminal syndicate with a clear hierarchy. At the top sits a three-man commission. Court documents identify these as the gang's highest leaders. Every major decision, murders, drug deals, alliances, required approval from at least two of the three commissioners. Trial evidence from the 2006 RICO case showed that in the early 2000s, when nearly all prominent AB members were housed in Pelican Bay's SHU, they elevated Daniel Troxell to the commission. This would become important later. Below the commission sat a 12-person council that coordinated crimes across the federal prison system. According to prosecutors, this structure allowed the gang to function like a corporation. Orders flowed down. Money flowed up. Former members testified that the commission issued hit lists. Targets included rival gang members, informants, and even AB members who violated gang rules. One former AB member testified that refusing an order to kill was itself punishable by death. You either murdered on command, or you became the target. But most people have no idea how they sent these orders from total isolation. According to gang investigators and court testimony, the Aryan Brotherhood had a hierarchy of targets. At the very top, informants. Barry, the Baron Mills, the gang's alleged leader in the 2006 trial, was known for his hatred of rats. According to witnesses, this traced back to a former partner whose confession sent Mills to San Quentin. Court documents reveal that being labeled an informant was a death sentence. Even suspected cooperation triggered violent retaliation. The 2006 federal indictment detailed one case. In 1983, according to prosecutors, AB members spent a year planning the murder of Richard Barnes, the father of a gang member who had testified against the gang. Members funneled his address and firearms to someone on the outside, who shot him in the head. Prison officials knew this, which is why they offered protective custody to anyone willing to testify. But according to former inmates, protective custody wasn't always protective. Court records show murders committed even in protective custody units. The Brotherhood's reach extended everywhere. And if they couldn't reach you inside, they had associates on the outside. Paroled members, girlfriends, corrupt guards. Someone would find you. 3 rules. Murder to join. The commission approves all hits. Informants die first. Simple. Brutal. Effective. But the real question is how they communicated these orders from inside the most secure isolation units in America. Federal prosecutors unveiled something most Americans had never seen. According to trial evidence, Aryan Brotherhood leaders had been running a criminal empire from solitary confinement for decades. The question was simple. How? According to testimony in the 2006 RICO trial, AB members used invisible ink made from urine, citrus juice, or bleach. Prosecutors presented evidence of letters that appeared innocent until heated over a flame. One message, allegedly written by Tyler, the Hulk, Bingham while imprisoned at ADX Florence Supermax in Colorado, was intercepted by investigators. Court records state that when heated, the invisible writing revealed an order to go to war with black prisoners at the federal prison in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. Al Benton, the gang's boss at Lewisburg, testified about receiving the letter. He said it arrived in the 4 p.m. mail on August 27, 1997. He and another member heated it over a match flame. The hidden message became visible. According to Benton's testimony, the order was clear: kill every black you can find. Within hours, prosecutors allege AB members armed with homemade shanks attacked black inmates. 2 men were killed. 1,700 miles. Total isolation. Constant surveillance. The message got through. Former inmates and corrections officials describe a method called flying kites. Tiny notes, sometimes written on toilet paper, passed from cell to cell on strings. According to gang investigators, inmates would flush water from their toilets to create an air gap in the drain pipes. Then they'd shout messages directly into the pipes, using the plumbing as a telephone system. Court documents from various cases describe other methods. Notes stuffed into mop handles. Messages shouted through ventilation systems. Information passed during medical visits. One investigation at USP Leavenworth found that AB members used food service workers who rolled meal carts between cell blocks to smuggle messages to general population inmates. Trial evidence from the 2006 case revealed an elaborate coding system. According to prosecutors, the Brotherhood used multiple methods. Federal investigators presented documents showing a gang membership list encoded using a dual alphabet cipher devised by Sir Francis Bacon. Other messages used cryptograms based on Elizabethan-era writings. Court testimony described how one message was hidden in the text of a library book on Napoleon Bonaparte. Former members testified that the gang developed its own alphabet, making messages incomprehensible to outsiders. In one case, prosecutors noted that a letter referenced the birth of one baby boy, 8 pounds, 7 ounces. According to investigators, this was code for California Penal Code 187, the statute for murder. It was a kill order. According to gang experts at the Anti-Defamation League, AB members found another way to communicate. They acted as their own attorneys and subpoenaed other Brotherhood members to testify. Melissa Carr, a gang expert, explained that this allowed them to pass messages in court through hand signals and code words. They slipped information into legal files protected by attorney-client privilege. Court records show this happened repeatedly. Members would manufacture legal cases just to get face time with other gang members in courtrooms. But according to multiple investigations, the most effective method was simpler: corruption. Court documents reference willing prison guards who smuggled messages and contraband for payment. Federal indictments charged multiple civilians, girlfriends, wives, associates, with smuggling items during visits. In the 2019 cell phone case, prosecutors charged Kristen DeMar, the wife of an AB member, with smuggling methamphetamine, cell phones, and tobacco into Folsom Prison. Surveillance footage allegedly showed her using a notepad to conceal contraband during a legal visit. According to the complaint, after being searched, an inmate was found with 4 cell phones, 174 grams of tobacco, and 20 grams of methamphetamine. But the real game changer came in 2015. And it started with something prison officials never saw coming. July 2011. Over 1,000 inmates at Pelican Bay launched a hunger strike. According to organizers, they demanded an end to indefinite solitary confinement based solely on gang validation. Court records identify the lead organizer, Todd Ashker, who had spent 27 years in isolation. His attorney filed a class-action lawsuit challenging California's use of long-term solitary. In 2013, a second hunger strike spread to 30,000 prisoners across California. This caught national attention. October 2015. The state of California agreed to a landmark settlement. According to the agreement, prisoners could no longer be placed in the SHU based solely on gang affiliation. All gang-validated prisoners who hadn't committed recent gang-related offenses would be released to general population. Within 1 year, the number of prisoners in long-term solitary at Pelican Bay dropped 99%. This seemed like a victory for human rights. Prison officials agreed. Advocacy groups celebrated. What nobody anticipated was what would happen next. One of the prisoners released from Pelican Bay's SHU was Ronald Dean Yandell. According to federal prosecutors, Yandell was a member of the Aryan Brotherhood's three-man commission. Prison officials had kept him in solitary confinement for 15 years, citing his gang affiliation and danger to other inmates. In late 2015, following the settlement, Yandell was transferred from Pelican Bay to New Folsom Prison in Sacramento. For the first time in 15 years, he had a cellmate, access to other inmates, and something else. According to the 143-page federal criminal complaint filed in June 2019, Yandell obtained a contraband cell phone. DA wiretaps began monitoring the phone in late 2016. 4 weeks, investigators listened as Yandell allegedly discussed murders, drug deals, and plans to consolidate power over all white prison gangs in California. In wiretapped conversations, prosecutors allege Yandell spoke about wanting to build an army within California prisons. He discussed forming a new Aryan Brotherhood composed entirely of hardened killers. According to the complaint, he told associates about plans to force rival white gangs, the United Society of Aryan Skinheads, Wolfpack, Golden State Skins, and American Front, to bend the knee or face consequences. August 12, 2015. Just days after being released from 45 years in solitary confinement, a 71-year-old man named Hugo Yogi Pennell was murdered at Folsom State Prison. Pennell was a legendary figure. A member of the Black Guerrilla family, he'd been involved in a 1971 escape attempt at San Quentin that left 6 dead. He'd spent decades in the SHU. According to federal prosecutors, 2 AB associates killed Pennell to earn their shamrock, to prove themselves worthy of full membership. Wiretapped phone calls allegedly captured Yandell discussing the murder. Court documents quote him telling another member, "We had Weaver kill that Yogi, and that the killer earned his rock by committing the deed." Pennell's murder triggered a riot. 11 prisoners were sent to outside hospitals with stab wounds. But here's the twist that investigators didn't expect. According to court records and investigative journalism, the men who organized the hunger strikes came from different gangs. Todd Ashker was an alleged AB member. Danny Troxell was on the AB's three-man commission. They'd worked with leaders of rival gangs, including the Black Guerrilla family, to organize the strikes. They called themselves the Short Corridor Collective, a cross-racial alliance to end solitary confinement. In 2015, after the settlement, both Ashker and Troxell were released from the Pelican Bay SHU. Then, according to federal prosecutors, something changed. In June 2019, Danny Troxell was indicted on federal RICO charges. The allegation that he'd used contraband cell phones to order murders and run drug operations from his prison cell at Pelican Bay. Wiretaps allegedly caught Troxell ordering the murder of another AB member at Calipatria State Prison. Law enforcement intervened to prevent the killing. Ronald Yandell, also indicted in 2019, claimed the prosecution was retaliation for his role in the hunger strikes and lawsuit. Federal prosecutors responded in court filings. They stated, the charges were filed because defendants were ordering and committing murders in and from the most restrictive prisons available in California. They added, as a result of the October 2015 settlement, Yandell and other AB leaders were released from the Pelican Bay SHU to less restrictive general population prisons. Yandell was transferred to Folsom Prison, where he obtained contraband cell phones. The settlement that ended torture also created an opportunity. June 6, 2019. Federal prosecutors announced charges against 16 Aryan Brotherhood members and associates. U.S. Attorney McGregor Scott called it a significant blow to a violent criminal enterprise run from inside California prisons. According to the 143-page complaint, defendants used smuggled cell phones, encrypted chats, text messages, and email to run operations. The charges included 5 murders, for murder plots, and drug trafficking. Court records detail the smuggling methods. Kevin McNamara, a paralegal and attorney who used a wheelchair, allegedly smuggled cell phones during legal visits. He listed Kristen DeMar as his legal assistant, allowing her access to attorney-client meeting rooms. According to the complaint, McNamara concealed a cell phone inside his wheelchair during one visit. Another scheme involved Justin Roon, Petty, who worked at Golden State Oversight, a company that ships care packages to inmates. Wiretaps allegedly caught Yandel coordinating with Petty to send contraband concealed in cereal, brownies, and other food items. Authorities intercepted the package before it reached the prison. But the real revelation came from what investigators heard on the wiretaps. U.S. Attorney Scott stated at a press conference, "Through the wiretap on Mr. Troxell's contraband cell phone, we gained extensive information about the Aryan Brotherhood and its criminal activities, including in great detail, murders, attempted murders, and drug trafficking." According to prosecutors, the recordings revealed discussions of previous murders committed for the AB, active murder plots against 4 inmates, drug trafficking operations coordinating heroin and methamphetamine distribution, Yandel counseling, mentoring, cajoling, bratting, and plotting to kill other members. Plans to consolidate control over all white California prison gangs. Trial evidence showed that between 2011 and 2019, AB members oversaw a significant heroin and methamphetamine trafficking operation from their prison cells. Wiretaps caught them directing drug deals on the streets of Sacramento and other California cities. According to court testimony, the Aryan Brotherhood regularly smuggled drugs into prisons throughout California. Defendants sold methamphetamine to other inmates and took a cut of street sales. 4 murder plots were stopped because of the wiretaps. The intended victims were moved into protective custody before they could be killed. But the most damning evidence came from something Yandel allegedly said on tape. According to prosecutors, he openly admitted to murders committed years earlier. In one wiretapped call, he allegedly told another member about the Hugo Pinell killing and other hits, providing details law enforcement had never confirmed. February 2024. After a 4-week trial, a federal jury convicted 3 AB members of RICO conspiracy. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, Francis Clement was found guilty of RICO conspiracy and 5 counts of murder in aid of racketeering. He was sentenced to life in prison. Kenneth Johnson was convicted of RICO conspiracy and 2 counts of murder in aid of racketeering. Life in prison. John Stinson was convicted of 1 count of RICO conspiracy. Sentenced to 20 years federal. In November 2025, Danny Troxell, age 72, was sentenced to life in prison for RICO conspiracy and conspiracy to commit murder. The district court had previously imposed life sentences on 5 other defendants: Ronald Yandel, William Sylvester, Pat Brady, Jason Corbett, and Brant Daniel. 9 convicted. Life sentences. But the Aryan Brotherhood still exists. According to the FBI, they estimate 15,000 to 20,000 members inside and outside prisons nationwide. The organization didn't die. It adapted. Here's what most people miss about this story. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, California had more people in solitary confinement for longer periods and with less justification than any other state. The 2015 settlement ended that. It was a human rights victory. Hundreds of men who'd spent decades in torture were released to general population. But prison officials warned this would happen. In court filings before the settlement, they argued that gang leaders were in the SHU because they posed a danger to other inmates. They were ignored. The settlement happened. Gang leaders got cell phones. Operations expanded. People died. So who was right? Defense attorneys in the 2019 case argued the prosecutions were retaliation for organizing the hunger strikes. They claimed prison officials wanted to punish the men who dared to sue the state. Their motion stated, activists like Mr. Yandel promptly faced significant retaliation from both state and federal officials. That retaliation included this federal prosecution, designed to remove Mr. Yandel from the general population and return him to isolation. Federal prosecutors fired back. They argued the charges had nothing to do with retaliation and everything to do with murder. They wrote, as a result of the October 2015 settlement, Yandel and other AB leaders were released to less restrictive prisons where they obtained contraband cell phones and used them to order murders. The judge sided with prosecutors. The cases moved forward. But here's the real twist. Both sides were telling the truth. Yes, California's use of indefinite solitary confinement was torture. The United Nations said so. Medical experts said so. Former inmates described severe psychological damage after decades of isolation. Todd Ashker, who spent 27 years in the SHU, said in court testimony that prisoners lost their minds. Some became catatonic. Others committed suicide. According to state data, over 70% of prison suicides occurred in SHUs, despite those units comprising only 10% of cells. That was real. The settlement needed to happen. The torture needed to end. But it's also true that some of the men released were career criminals running violent gangs. Ronald Yandell had been validated as an AB Commission member. Danny Troxell had been in prison since age 19, convicted of attempted murder. According to wiretaps, when given access to cell phones and general population, they allegedly ordered murders. So what do? We can't torture people. But we can't let gang leaders orchestrate murders from prison cells either. The real truth most people don't know, there's no easy answer. According to the FBI, prison gangs have existed for over 50 years. The Aryan Brotherhood formed in the 1960s at San Quentin. Since then, they've spread to every state and federal prison in America. The National Gang Intelligence Center estimates that prison gangs coordinate with street gangs to traffic drugs, order murders, and run criminal enterprises worth billions of dollars. California tried total isolation. It didn't work. The gangs communicated anyway. They tried the 2015 settlement, releasing people to general population. Violence increased. Cell phones multiplied. In 2019, the state responded by creating restricted custody general population units, a middle ground between solitary and full general population. Smaller yards. More supervision. Limited phone access. But according to corrections experts, even these units struggle to prevent gang activity. The question isn't whether solitary confinement is torture. It is. The question is, what do we do with people who order murders from prison cells? Prison officials say, more surveillance. Better contraband detection. Restrict access for validated gang members. Civil rights attorneys say, address the root causes. Provide rehabilitation. Create pathways out of gang life that don't require torture. Former gang members say, nothing will change until we stop creating the conditions that breed gangs in the first place. As of 2025, Pelican Bay's SHU still operates. But it's no longer used for indefinite gang validation. According to the California Department of Corrections, prisoners can only be placed there for specific disciplinary infractions, and stays are time-limited. The men convicted in the 2019 cell phone case are now serving life sentences in federal supermax prisons. ADX Florence, Colorado. USP Terre Haute, Indiana. Facilities even more restrictive than Pelican Bay. They're back in isolation. Some people say that's justice. Others say the cycle continues. But here's what nobody disputes. According to trial testimony and wiretap evidence, the Aryan Brotherhood is still operating. New members are still being recruited. Murders are still being ordered. The question is whether we're fighting gang violence or just moving it around. Because after 60 years of trying, America still hasn't figured out how to stop prison gangs without resorting to torture. And that's the real story nobody wants to admit. Before we wrap this up, hit that subscribe button. We're investigating the darkest corners of America's prison system, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. You've just seen how the Aryan Brotherhood ran a criminal empire from inside the most isolated cells in California. Invisible ink made from urine. Coded messages hidden in legal documents. Drain pipes used as telephones. And finally, smuggled cell phones that allowed gang leaders to order murders with a text message. For 6 decades, law enforcement has tried everything. Isolation. Surveillance. Federal RICO prosecutions. The gang adapts. It survives. According to federal law enforcement, the Aryan Brotherhood remains one of the most violent prison gangs in America. 15 to 20,000 members. Chapters in every major prison system. Less than 1% of the prison population. responsible for 18% of all prison murders. The 2019 convictions put 9 men away for life. But thousands remain. Danny Troxel, age 72 when sentenced in 2025, will die in federal prison. So will Ronald Yandel. So will the others. But the shamrock tattoo still gets inked on new recruits. The blood oath still gets sworn. The hit lists still circulate. The settlement that ended decades of torture at Pelican Bay was the right thing to do. Solitary confinement for 20, 30, 40 years destroys the human mind. But it also created an opening. And the Aryan Brotherhood took it. That's the paradox nobody wants to talk about. How do we stop gang violence without becoming monsters ourselves? Pelican Bay still stands on California's northern coast. The SHU is quieter now. Fewer men in isolation. More oversight. But the empire built in those cells didn't die when the doors opened. It just found new ways to survive.